I'm Myrna Harrison, and I'm the artist of the shows that are behind me, the show that is behind me. I've been a painter all my life. My father was an animator in Hollywood in the early 30s, and not with Disney, but with Columbia Pictures had its own cartoon arm, which called Screen Gems, and lived in California. I drew there. I don't remember any time when I wasn't drawing. We then moved to New York and lived in New York, and I went to high school in New York, to the High School of Music and Art. New York City has public schools that specialize, high schools that specialize. I went to music and art. There was one for performing arts, which I always thought was interesting. It didn't begin until 11 or 12 in the morning because all their students were high school students who were acting in Broadway shows. So they weren't getting home until 11 or 12. So they didn't set up school until like 11 or so in the morning. They had, the things for people who wanted to be auto workers and so on. You took a test to get in. It was free. It was part of the public school system. And then I went to the University of New Mexico for a year and a half. I thought I would become a social worker because I had great interest in social things. Went back to New York, got back into art, and then never left. And have studied with a number of teachers, but probably the most prominent is Hans Hofmann. And I studied with him in both New York and New York City, where he had a school, and in Provincetown, Massachusetts, where he also had a school. And you studied, you worked from the nude from 9 to 12, and then you painted as you wished from 1 to 4. And the nude, it wasn't what was done with a lot of nudes where, there was a 5-second and a 20-second. It was one pose for a week, 3 hours a day. And you were expected to learn not only to draw the figure, but how to use the total paper. It was quite an experience. And he would come in and do what very few teachers do. I think it's common in Europe, but not really in the United States. He would draw right over your drawing to show you how else to make it work. And much of what he did had to do with space and how you made the space move in and out, and how you used all of the paper. If you had a paper this size, you didn't have like a little figure here, but you had your figure in the space related to all of the areas on the paper. I think I've always been interested in landscape. I never wanted really to paint people. Drawing nudes was fun, and I really enjoyed doing it. It was easy to do in New York because there were nude classes everywhere. And if there weren't classes, there were nude drawings you could do. I asked about them when I moved to Arizona in 1980. And I sort of went to the local information place and said, so where are the nude models? And I thought the woman would fall off her chair, because Arizona isn't big on nudes. And she got very upset about it. What do you mean? Why do you want nudes? And this is not lascivious. It's what I like to draw. And anyway, I finally did find one place that did them and had nudes for drawing in Phoenix. But I am overwhelmed really with landscape. And I think about the two landscapes that really interest me are Arizona's and then seashore. And Arizona's landscape is just magnificent. I bought a house when I was I don't know, 85, 86, something, 1980. And I bought a house in Wickenburg that was out of the town on the other side of the Hacienda, which flowed sometimes and you couldn't get through it. And I was above a canyon. And I loved it. I loved the landscape. And I have drawn the landscape here in Arizona. And almost all the works here are landscapes from Arizona. One is a large one over here, and I'm going to be bad about remembering which state it's in, but I had been hired to do some work for somebody who wanted paintings of that area. And those were ones I did and took for myself, but he kept certain ones and showed them there. I have worked abstractly, and I kind of moved back and forth between more figurative and less figurative. But the landscape is what just fascinates me. And I spent this morning having a glass of apple juice and looking out at the mountains and the incredible rocks of Sedona. And my own interest at this point is 90% landscape and getting the feel of it and the emotion of it and the sense of how it affects us personally to sit and look at a landscape, to be in a landscape. I was a hiker, and I guess everybody who lives in Arizona did the Grand Canyon down and back, and so and I was a runner and did a lot of that. But my overwhelming interest is in the landscape and getting the feel of it and the sense of emotion it gives us. And that's really what my painting is about.